And welcome back to the hottest marriage show on this planet. It is I, John Dean,
They do.
better known as Doing Too Much, here to welcome you to another day of wonderful conversations and growing and learning how to become better. How was your day today, young lady?
It was great today.
What was so great about it?
Some people will say that I'm not ambitious. However, it's just that I don't want to feel stressed during my day. So I don't want my job to be stressful. And one of the things I think is stressful when your job depends on other people.
Mm-hmm.
So today I was informed that my contract is changing and they're taking me off the grant that requires me to work as a liaison. And I was just telling my manager a couple weeks ago, I was like, my struggle with that is I know what needs to be done. And I feel like I want to direct people in doing it. But I work with a lot of older people who've been in cancer work for a really long time. And they may not always understand how understaffed and overtaxed the medical or providers and clinics are. And so they're like, oh yeah, we could do this, we could do that. It's really easy, right? And when I try to steer them, I'm very gentle in redirecting people, but I'll be wanting to just say, hey, everybody stop. This is not going to be productive. So let's change this direction, do da da da. And I told him sometimes I'm apprehensive to really take control and direct people because I don't want to be perceived. When I speak and I am about business, sometimes I'm perceived as being
Aggressive?
Yes, aggressive. And if you talk to me on a regular, I'm really pleasant. People like me at work. It's like, oh, I love talking to Kanika, da, da, da. But if I get to a point where I am, it's that thing about being mean to somebody or being firm. And I said, that's a struggle for me because I don't smile when I'm being firm, and I'm very matter of fact. Like, this is my expectation, and I don't want to be perceived that way. So I stay away from jobs that require me to manage other people. When they ask me, like I've been asked in previous positions, Kanika, can you do this? Can you do that? I'm like, I would really rather not. And so even in one of my current grants, the program director is like, I'm not going to retire in the next 5 years or so, but you're probably going to be running this program. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I like a job that everything I do is based on me and my actions, and you tell me what you want and I deliver it. I like it better that way. And so today when they told me that my part of that grant had been eliminated due to grant budget cuts, I was like, are we serious right now? This is kind of nice. Like, I was just saying how I love my job, but this is the most challenging part for me because it depends on other people. And even though I really want to get them right and redirect people and stop this sometimes I feel like it's a runaway train. Everybody has ideas and they're excited and it's not within the scope of what we can do. Mm-hmm. And when I try to stop them, they're like, they don't hear me. So do I become more firm or do I, flow? So I don't like being more firm because I don't want to change the work dynamic I have with people. I'd rather just do what I do. And so when they told me that part had been eliminated from my position and I was going to be redirected to other projects, I was like, this might be a good thing.
Let me ask you a question. What if there was a team of you, and is that the type of, I was just thinking, if hypothetically somebody ever thought you were that good and they said, hey, this young lady out in Michigan, she has ideas, I've heard really good things about her, I have a team of people that she's looking for.
It's funny you say that because I was talking to a friend today about this, and she was like, she's currently reading 50 Cent's book, And he said when he was younger, he had to stop playing team sports because if they lost, he'd be like, we lost because of you, and point out his teammates. And then he said, I got to depend on myself. I'm going to do it on my own. And later on, now, he never wanted to be a part of a team or lead a group because of those experiences. And now, he runs a very successful business. And so the difference was finding people that you were comfortable with their capability to do what you needed done. And I said the difference is I'm put in a group of people who've all been selected for different reasons, and they could be really great in their area. But this particular thing, like being able to harness all of that expertise and excitement and direct it at one focused thing, it can be hard. But in his case, he can hire the people he wants. I am like a part of a mixed team where I'm not selecting these people. So, yeah, if it were a bunch of me's, then I wouldn't care about how I talk to them. Well, I could talk to them the way I feel most comfortable because they would understand. And I would feel comfortable knowing that, like, with me, I'm the type of person that if the project doesn't end up right and I'm a part of the team, I'm not thinking it was your fault, you didn't do this right, you didn't do this. I think to myself, I should have checked in on whether or not they had their stuff done a couple weeks beforehand so that when I looked at it, I would be able to change it and make it better. It's my fault because I didn't check behind people.
Yeah.
And that's added stress for what reason? You know what I'm saying? So he's great because he got to hire his team. But in my case, in the capacities I've worked in, I'm put in a mixed team and I can't handpick people. I have great people who are experts in the area, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I can harness that power effectively. And so I stay away from that. I know I can harness mine.
Did you ever think that if you took the challenge of accepting that responsibility, what that would look like?
I think it would look okay. For me, if I were to take a part of a program that I've been a part of, people already knew me as myself, me taking on a leadership role and being able to say, okay, this is what we need to do, I think they would take it better with me being firm because they know that I'm not like that 100%. It's because of this moment. Whereas when I'm put into a team of people who don't know me, it's just, and it might all be in my head. I don't think it is, but it might all be in my head. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like a team that already knows me in the capacity where I'm able to be more relaxed, they would take it better than if I came in and I said, okay, these are the tasks that we got to get done. So we need to get this, and this done. Then it seems like,
well,
being a nightmare.
I'm saying like there's probably somebody out there who could do something like that, right?
Yeah, probably.
Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's not a challenge that you wanted to accept.
No, not me personally. No, I like being focused on things. I like the task that I'm given, and when I deliver it, I know that I'm delivering a certain quality.
I mean, I'm just in comparison to Curtis Jackson.
Yeah,
he felt the same way.
Oh, if I could, yeah.
Like at some point, like.
But I think there's an added when you're managing others or you're a part of a team, there's just added stress that I like my minimal stress life. I do. And I guard it. I guard it with everything I have.
I kind of retract, because I was trying to push you, but I totally understand that even more because now I understand. And I sometimes, I guess I don't hear it enough, but I do know now.
Yeah.
Like having a level of peace when you're not trying to prove anything to anybody. Mm-hmm. If you don't have to go get it, you can protect your peace more than the ambition of anything, because maybe your ambition is to remain at peace.
Yeah.
Like your family's functioning and you're just thriving at work.
Yeah.
You don't have to have extra responsibilities because you enjoy where you're at.
Yeah. I don't need the accolades or the extra titles. And if I'm living comfortably on my pay, I'm not going to chase $1 million. I just really want to enjoy my life.
I love that.
Okay. Well then, that's why my day is great though.
For sure. That's that's a great way to have a day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I do recall, you know, how you felt prior with the responsibilities on taking that management aspect, you know, doing different groups, and, you know, you could just, your mood was different. I'm not going to say it just, but you can tell that something was bothering you, or, you know, you weren't as chipper.
Mm-hmm.
But now I feel like I'm just looking to see what's the next thing you can find out what's like, because that's kind of removed now. That
Mm-hmm.
pain is removed. So now you can focus on whatever else that gives you pain, where you can like, I don't want, no, I'm
Gives
saying
me
like,
pain.
yeah, because you couldn't do anything about that. So you had to just deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But now that's been removed, now you can probably focus on yourself so you can have a better peace. You know, like, what can get me even better, because that wasn't your control.
Yeah.
So it was almost like you were trained to do what you were doing just to get it removed so that you can say, I did that, I don't have to do that again.
Yeah, and there was so much value to it, though. It definitely exposed me to new people, experts in the areas I work in, and it put me in a position where, you know, now they've learned to work with me, so they know my name if they hear about me, right? The other thing is that I learned so much about the topics of the committees that I was over, and it really helped to boost my understanding, and it actually helped me to kind of write the next few steps of my career. Like, I'm not going to just stay in this position. There are things I want to specialize in, but it introduced me to some stuff. So it's cool. It was just not my preferred. Like, I was very happy that it was a minimal part of my position. But that's all on that one, yeah.
That was an awesome day, though.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So, what you want to talk about?
You know what I want to talk about.
I don't.
So, I had been off this last weekend. We moved into our house, and I had been off just to get the things together, and I learned about the Roe versus Wade decision to overturn. Because I work for an agency, I got to work today, and I was able to read the letter from our Governor Whitmer, about her reaction, and our Lieutenant Governor and our Medical Director. And it was interesting just to, first of all, what I hadn't been aware of is that prior to Roe versus Wade in 1973, Michigan had a 1931, 90 years ago, 1931, they had an abortion law. It was a ban criminalizing it. And prior to the overturn of Roe versus Wade, the governor had put in a lawsuit against the Supreme Court of Michigan to put a pause on that ban. If Roe versus Wade was overturned, Michigan would not immediately default back to its abortion law. And so, you know, it was talking about how it's crazy to me, because our state was operating off of this idea of controlling women, and the status of women in society has changed drastically since 1931. And the fact that with the overturning of Roe versus Wade, we would automatically default back to that law was just crazy. But I just think that my biggest thing about all of this is there's so much talk about women and how they need to control these women, and they need to save lives, and they need to do this and do that. And I have two thoughts about that. Number one, there is no infrastructure overall in the government for once these children are born to ensure that they have this quality of life that people are pushing for so much. Like, once you're born, then it's like, you know, go for what you know. But the second thing is, people are so worried about women and their choices after they get pregnant. But a woman can only really be pregnant once a year. You might even overlap and have 2 in a year, just off of calendar reasons. But but men can have multiple babies in a year. And there is not one counter bill or any law or anything that anybody is even daring to throw out there about men and vasectomies. Now, vasectomies are a 9-10 minute in doctor's office procedure that's reversible. But we are steady trying to fight these women who are pregnant and making these decisions and have to get on these tables. And so it really, really bothered me to think that we are worrying about a woman who can carry a child in a year and not a man who can impregnate all throughout the year. We don't say anything to them about their ability. Even in a conversation we were having earlier, and I was saying, it's funny because young women, I've had people in my family and friends who have had children early, and they knew they didn't want any more. And they go to the doctor and they're like, yeah, I want my tubes tied. And the doctor will sit there and look them dead in the eye and be like, I don't advise that, because what if you meet someone and he wants to have a child? I don't want to take that opportunity away from you. And we'll tell a woman, just in case a man wants to use your womb later, I'm going to reserve that option for you. Now it's gotten to the point where women will be like, okay, can you put that in my file that you're denying me care or whatever the case may be? And there's more discussion.
When we talked about that, we did say women say the same thing, the women doctors.
I didn't say women or men doctors. I said doctors, just
That's
period.
What I'm saying.
Yes. But what I'm saying is that where are the conversations about the ones that you can fix easier? Like you don't want to take away my ability to have children because you're not going to be able to reverse my tubal ligation, my getting my tubes tied. However, you can reverse things for men, and it's 10 minutes and it's ice on your balls for a little bit. And I'm not going to minimize the pain. I'm just saying, abortions are painful. They can be very painful. They can be uncomfortable. Giving birth can be uncomfortable and painful. And so the little 10 minutes until the man is ready to have a child or responsible versus a woman and worrying about plan B and birth control and the shot and what are they called? I forget what they're called. You insert them. I'm losing. Yeah, the IUDs. Thank you. We have all these things trying to help women to be responsible for whether or not they're having children. And nothing is really fail proof. Nothing is really fail proof other than abstinence. But
that sounds pretty dope. But
there's no discussion about men. And it's easier.
I don't know. What is this easier thing that you're saying, though? I just want to make sure.
Wait, hold on. And then you have where, insurance companies will cover things for, erectile dysfunction, like things that men value and feel are important in relation to their sex life. Insurance companies, the medical environment, they kind of jump at it more than with women. So I'm trying to figure out why are we not one person. I don't see any big push. I don't see a counter push while we're talking about this to talk about vasectomy.
I mean, is it because it would be limiting men's rights?
Oh, but it's limiting women's rights with abortion.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah, but I'm saying if we're okay with limiting women's rights, then we need to be okay with limiting everybody's rights.
Who said they were not? You just said
I'm
nobody's
just saying
brought
I ain't
it
heard
up.
Nothing. So
I know
I'm interested
nobody brings
as
it
to
up.
why.
Oh, I don't know. Why haven't you brought it up?
I have today. I have today. And look, y'all, if I cared enough more on the internet to actually have a following, I would definitely just start bombing, like posting on this, because I really don't get it. Like, we always complain like men are trying to control women's bodies and men are in here making these decisions about, well, if they in there signing things and voting, vote on them penises. That's my thought.
I just want you to know there are women making these decisions also.
I agree.
I know,
but I'm saying let's do equal opportunity. Don't just focus on me. Focus on him too.
Who's supposed to focus on him?
The same people focusing on me.
Who's going to focus on themselves?
But you just said women are in there voting on it too.
Yeah, so I know, but those women already believe that it's all right.
Oh.
So they don't like. That's
do
what
you
I'm
think that it's? Do you think that that's a viable option to ask men to give vasectomies?
No, I don't. I don't think limiting anybody's rights. So I don't want to play that like,
Okay.
because I do believe that women should be able to make decisions for themselves. But like I said earlier, maybe everybody shouldn't be making decisions for themselves because they are putting themselves in positions that make people uncomfortable. And of course, the most difficult thing in the world is minding your own business.
It is, but whatever I'm doing, it's so interesting. You said people are doing things that are making others uncomfortable. I really can't care. I think that it's interesting that I've always been somebody that has said, you have the right to do whatever you want with your life as long as you don't impede upon my rights. You can have whatever right you want in the world, as long as it does not directly impact how I like the rights that I have, that I can live, be comfortable, be safe, and then that's fine. But I think that when people make these decisions and they're like making it based off, I mean, isn't that the whole point of the idea of separating church and state? Because a lot of this it's not because they themselves have this idea that I'm saving a child, because you don't care about the child once it's born. But
that's really the issue.
It really bothers me.
Oh,
but they're really, really focused on it's all based on their belief system.
But if you go further, like they should be like promoting more abstinence or celibacy, because people are going to have sex, and by removing this, you're just going to make it more dangerous for women to like do whatever to get this procedure done, because they know that
they're gonna have sex.
Well, but
they gotta have sex with somebody. So
I mean, you don't have to have sex. Like,
you don't. But what I'm saying is, while these women are out here having sex, they're having sex with somebody.
For sure.
Who's supposedly also equally responsible.
I think both of them.
I
think both of them are irresponsible. So
okay, so
there's no like the guy should be doing all of this, because both of them are playing that game.
Mm-hmm.
So if the only way it's if somebody has a different intent, but typically when people are having sex, they understand the rules of it, and somebody could get pregnant.
You know what's interesting? Okay, let me roll back. I'm gonna say I agree, and this makes me think about Nick Cannon and how he was talking about, he was going to be celibate. He had these children, and he had decided that he was going to be celibate. And I think in December he was just like, I kind of fell off the wagon, and another baby is coming, and we don't know how many are going to come in 2022. Now, some would say financially he's stable. So if he has more, children.
Oh, you know what's going to show? I'm going to tell you this. What he doesn't realize is that when his kids grow up, everybody's going to have a different story for him. And it's not going to be the story that he wants, because there's no way that he can father that many children in different households and be effective.
Yeah.
So my point is, we're still young. Americans are still young, because we need another generation to say, hey, money is not going to make these kids successful. The stability of a financially okay, great household is not parenting.
No, I definitely agree with that, because I feel like having a parent in the house and consistently co-parenting, and you know what? I'm not even going to say you have to be in the house. I'm going to say that you just have to be active on a daily basis with your kids.
Well, I remember going to sleep, waking up is a part of parenting.
I agree, but sometimes.
Oh, no, I get that sometimes.
But I feel like it's different. If I have 10 kids over 30 days, how many times am I going to be able to spend quality time with each of my 10 kids? Like, they each get 3 days out the month? No.
But if you have 10 kids in the household, I'm just saying you have more of an influence, because the oldest, whatever going on down, they're gonna like have a reflection of you.
But I'm talking about in separate households.
That's what I'm saying. That's gonna show that wasn't the most effective way to parent.
Right. But then when you look at it, and that's why I'm saying the man's role is very, very important, because, okay, if I have 4 children, those 4 children in most cases will be with me. But if you have 4 children, it doesn't necessarily mean all 4 of your children will be with you.
And that means he can't be the best father possible.
I really feel like that quality time is important. Whether you're in the house or not, it's that consistent when you can't be in the house with all 4 of your children or 10 or however many. That time is important. And you're right. It can't be covered by money, even though, but in our head, it's not only the quality time, it's can these children be financially managed or taken care of? And that's another thing I think people don't think about, like save all the babies. But how many of these children are born from, environments where they may not be financially stable? Some of them may be, but that person feels like mentally they're not capable of it, or whatever the circumstances may be. You don't know. So you shouldn't make a blanket decision that nobody should be able to have an abortion. Like the Michigan 1931 law. Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't matter if you've been raped, if it was incest, it doesn't matter. Like no matter what, you can't. And so my thing is you're not paying attention to incest. You're not paying attention to rape. You're not paying attention to financial situations. And you're not paying attention to insurance and quality of care. You're not paying attention to disparities in healthcare, prenatal, postpartum, and while you're having the child, and the child afterward, well, child care. We're not talking about whether or not there is a structure in the family that will help. We're not talking about we're not talking about any of that stuff. It's just save the life. We're not talking about quality of life. It's just the absence or presence of.
And I never could understand that part either, because people are so fascinated of a baby that can't survive at that point for the most part without having whatever necessary to keep this, you know what I'm saying? So if the person having this baby says, I'm not responsible enough to have this baby, mm-hmm. and I would rather abort it than to make, whatever. I don't understand why we wouldn't take that road and try to fix whatever to not get to that road versus take it completely away.
Yeah, it would be different if we were putting policies in place in order to support these children, but we're missing.
We don't care about them.
No,
it ain't about them.
No, we let the bottom fall right out that barrel, and that thing really bothers me, because if you're not going to make sure the child has quality of life, it's not that you care.
Guess what? This man said, for those of you I'm still doing signatures and petitions, right? So this man says, I can't sign that because I know a woman that was victim of rape and she's a doctor and she's great. And I'm thinking in my head, this dude just said, I got a black friend. I got some black. Yeah. Like, really? You just gave the one exception. Mm-hmm. Like, think about all these other kids, but they still got a chance. I'm like, but it's on everybody else's hands. Like, I don't understand how they got a chance to do what.
And at the same time, that person may be a really excellent doctor, because regardless of their how they came to be, if their parent gave them up for adoption, if their parent kept them and got therapy, if they had the right structure around them, whether or not that person has a perfection problem because they feel like they came from an imperfect situation, and so there's that mental need to be perfect, and so they're driven by that, and there's a trauma behind that. Like, you don't know why they're awesome. You don't know if they cry at night when they go home. You don't know if they rejoice all day long.
That's what bothered me when people like to talk about the examples that they really don't know. Like, you don't know what they go through. Like she definitely didn't know one of her parents, most likely.
Well, and the other thing is, rapists have rights. They have parental rights.
But I'm saying it's a possibility that she didn't have.
You're right.
The household with 2 parents.
Yeah. And isn't that a part of the values and belief system of the people who are fighting so much for abortion?
Why wouldn't that's what I said. Like, we stand for things that we don't know too much about, because if you and I can just talk about how we're not thinking about having kids raised up in a complementary household so they can be successful, but we only care about them where they're like very small. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say something wrong or whatnot. Right. The fetus, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But you thinking about this part right here, but you're not thinking about the 18 years of growing up outside of a quote unquote complementary household with two parents. I don't understand why that part is not important.
And
is
that's
this part.
Yeah, and that's not to say that a 2-parent household makes it
I'm just
by
saying
default a healthy household.
No, I'm just saying you would prefer to start out like that. You don't want to say, you know what, let's go the most difficult way and let's just do one parent.
You would prefer to start off with an optimal situation in which both people wanted to have this child, are fully capable.
Correct. But then you break down and you go down. You don't want to be a product of rape.
Right.
Like, what kind of childhood is that?
Well, and I'm not going to say, I could say that, like I said, if the person who was the victim or the survivor of rape was able to get the care they needed and they said, this is what I need to do and I want to have this child and love this child, that's their decision.
Oh, no, I get it.
That would be great. And if they're constantly working on making sure that they're providing the right environment for their child to the best of their ability, I'm never going to be mad about that. But I'm also feeling like if I'm traumatized, which I don't know anybody personally who's been raped. Well, yes, I do. And there is trauma behind it.
Everybody from what...
You're going to have to be able to fight that. And some people aren't even capable of fighting that in their position. Like they buckle under that as well. So we're talking about, my thing is I don't know if you're the person that's going to be able to knuckle up and fight through it. I don't know
who the hell would want that?
I don't know. I don't know who you are. I don't know what your capabilities are, but this is my thing. I don't want to be the one to decide for you.
No, I'm saying this. If you're fighting like that, it's going to take a whole lot to find peace. Yeah, I'm not even talking about later in life. I'm talking about as a child. What did you have to get to that point?
Well, I'm gonna share that. So the year before John came back, I was very emotional. I had a really, really hard time. I was doing things on my own with the kids while he was overseas, blah, blah, blah. I was really sad, and I thought that I was holding it together. And so I'm talking to Dallas one day, and he said, yeah, I remember. He said, I used to cry a lot. And I was like, really? Like, what was going on? He said, because you cried. And I was like, I probably cried in front of him one time, like, but they knew I was crying and they knew I was struggling and I was hurt. And he was absorbing those feelings I had and they became his. He was sad. He was hurt. And if you're a parent who shouldn't be, and when I say shouldn't be, whether that's determined by you or someone else, be a parent and someone tells you that this is what you have to do. Like, your trauma can easily become your children's trauma if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know how to help yourself. And that's very hard for somebody to decide.
I think that's everybody though.
Hurt.
Even people educated is hard.
And then it's like, everybody is talking about abortion, but in addition to talking about quality of life for these children who are being born, can we talk about the foster care system? Okay. So if nobody wants to talk to me about how you're going to take care of the foster care system where these children are taken from homes that for whatever reason, whether they lost their family members and there was nowhere else to go, whether it was an unfit home, whatever the case may be, we're not talking about what we're doing for them. And I'm going to tell you like this. There are a number that, the hardest groups to find a home for are large sibling groups of 3 or more and teenagers. So once they get past that cute little goo goo gaga baby stage and they're teenagers, or you're in a family where a woman is overwhelmed or a father is overwhelmed or a family has no one left to go, and then you got a group of 3, 4, 5 siblings in the system, then what? What y'all talking about there? Because I don't hear y'all fighting no laws about that. I don't hear nobody setting up no policies about that.
Man, I think, okay, so I was, while you were doing that, I was just like, why did they cut the abortion off? So you know what I think? They think that it's going to change your behavior. Like if nobody's going to, maybe they won't have sex. No, think about it. They think like, okay, if you cut this off, if I make it very difficult for you to have an abortion, maybe you won't have sex as much. It's where you could fall into a trap like that. And think about this. If men and women didn't have sex as much, maybe relationships wouldn't fail as much. You could actually get to know a person. You ever thought about that?
I could definitely see the value.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I think we look at it in such a negative way on the other side. Like, they have to think something positive.
I don't know.
Or am I just going too far?
I'm going to tell you what I think some people are already thinking. We've all heard this before. But it's about population. It's about increasing a certain group. And I may be lying. I may be wrong. I may be 100 miles off the mark. However, there is, even though I feel like a lot of the times the things that they want to deter people from, they give it a face that generally people are not to like, right? So, such as the welfare queen. If you say the welfare queen, you think about when they were doing this big old push about welfare families and taking advantage of welfare. A lot of the times they were giving it a black woman's face, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about abortion, a lot of the times they put it as these poor women of color. Somebody said, look, they said, we're trying to save, the black communities have a lot of abortions and we're trying to save the community. It's funny because Dallas came to me one day and he said, do they ever think about the fact that black women have poor health care when it comes to like the infant mortality and the maternal mortality is so high? This is a 13-year-old. I said, no, they're not thinking about that. And so they're saying, we're trying to help y'all too. We're trying to help y'all. But in actuality, I believe it's really about increasing a number for a population who feels like they are becoming the minority, and it's on the horizon. Continuing, not only is it that not as many of them. Now, first of all, we ain't even going to talk about how we got $5 gas and people ain't making no real money. So let's talk about finances and how much it costs for an apartment. You're not making it where these young people who are making good money can actually afford to live a comfortable life. So they're not going to want to have kids. I'm speaking to the group that's trying to up their population. Now, you don't want to fix that. You don't want to fix foster care. You don't want to fix the infrastructure for these kids who are being born. It's not just poor people of color who are having abortions. It's the others that are having abortions too.
But that's what I'm saying. But if you're trying
to save your numbers.
But I think that message could possibly be deceiving also, because I'm pretty sure they're majority of their abortions.
Well.
So they can't be. I think the color thing is with us because that's the way that we view it. But I'm
saying if you're going to put it like that, it's like creating this visual of what it is, and you want to stop it. We got to stop these people from doing stuff. They don't know what they're doing. They're being bad. They're being immoral. This is not right. But truthfully, I think that another it's a backdoor way of being able to, if not increase, maintain the numbers that are had in this population, because they're steadily going down. People are choosing not to have kids. This generation choosing not to even have kids if they don't have them later. And when you have them later, you have less, right?
Well, I mean, the population's already going to decrease because of this generation.
It is.
But my point is, not my point, but
okay. Come on.
To continue with what you're saying, like, we haven't portrayed a good representation of family. So why would anybody want to go through it if they don't know what it's supposed to look like?
That I don't know.
So they was like, you know what? I'll just do this single thing. I ain't gonna bring nobody into this world.
I've had single friends say that. Like, I don't necessarily know if I would want to have a kid in this world.
So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So like,
yeah. So I feel like, I mean, it's a lot of things that you could do instead of worrying about abortion that are far more that have the ability to have a long lasting impact on the quality of life across the board. But instead, we're just talking about this one thing. I don't know. But all I'm saying is, let me do what I want with my uterus. You do what you want with yours. If you don't have one, close your mouth. And then let's roll.
Do you think at any point, as you get older, that you will understand why?
I understand some people are driven by
No,
their faith.
I'm saying outside of that. Let's say there's a reason better than the one that you're posing, that you want to control your uterus.
I would enjoy any conversation with someone who can explain it to me and make me understand it.
Yeah, that's dope. That's what I'm just saying. Like, those are the type of conversations I look for also, because I feel like every time you stand on something and you have enough information, there's always something out there that can say, maybe you should look at it this way.
Well, this is my thing. I'm saying that I'm welcoming the conversation because I do,
yeah.
but I don't believe that it's anywhere
I do.
possible.
I definitely believe it.
Don't believe it.
Well, I just told you.
But I think regardless of what you're doing and why you're doing it, ultimately the idea is that I'm supposed to live a life of liberty.
I know, but did you ever think that maybe people said that an adult was at 18 and maybe really it isn't?
I know, I agree. Adulthood is not at 18. I wasn't
That's
an
what I'm
adult
saying.
until I was like 26. 23 to 26, I was probably an adult. But yeah, I think that my thing is either you regulate both people or regulate no people. I think that when I think about it, I was raised as a Baptist Christian. I understand the values and beliefs that are kind of being projected through these stances that people have from a faith-based perspective. But I do feel like if there's someone who doesn't believe in what I believe in specifically, then why should my belief system apply to you? Because if the shoe were on the other foot,
who says it's not?
And I were the minority as far as faith, and another faith-based ideology was kind of driving politics, and they were trying to impede on my rights of myself based on their faith, I'd be mad as hell. Like, you can't do that. You can't sit here and fight and tell people that they can't take your rights away, and then you turn around and be like, but your rights, I want to take those though. You can't take mine.
Who said
but I want to
that,
take
though?
yours.
That's what I'm saying. You keep saying
it's the people. You're saying who says that, but I'm just saying, if there are any mumblings out in the streets.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you want the fight.
I do. No, I don't want the fight. What I really want is no fight. What I really want is everyone to stay in their lane.
Well,
but they won't.
Everybody should probably not have sex and get to know people.
I think that's unrealistic because
sex is unrealistic to who?
Number one, you can't live in America in the way that they sexualize everything and then be like, hey, but we don't want y'all having none of that. It looked fun in the mug, but don't have none of that.
Do you think our kids are going to participate like we did? Mm-mm. So what makes you think it doesn't get better each generation?
Maybe. But what I'm saying to you is in this present time, as they continue to sexualize things, I would like for you to not, I personally would not assume that their goal is to start to deter people from having sex. Then what I need you to do is stop capitalizing off of things being sexualized then. Like, you can't have it both ways. You got to choose.
Well, why? I just want to know why, because at least I would understand.
This is my thing. Either...
Here we go.
Okay. I think that I feel like
stop it.
You need to, when you choose, when you pick a side, when you have a stance, your stance needs to go across the board. Your stance can't be on one thing. It needs to be a value, an attitude, or a belief that you have that can be threaded through every decision you make. You can't just decide that it only applies to this one particular thing and nothing else. Then that means that that's not why you're not doing it because of your faith. You're doing it for something else. Because if it was driven by an attitude or a belief or a value, then that means it would show up everywhere. In every decision you make and everything you do, because it's embedded in you. It's ingrained in you. But if it's not showing up in everything that you're talking about, then that means that there's another reason why you're doing it.
So who are you referring to?
Whoever is standing firm on anything that is supposed to, I believe this. And so I think that, so then that means that if there's anything that comes across and it impedes your rights, then I need you to look at it with the same values and attitudes and beliefs you're looking at when you're impeding somebody else's. So if you're doing this to protect me and my children, and then I come and I say, well, I feel like there should be stricter gun laws because I believe it's protecting me and my children, and then you fight me, then what are you fighting me for? Because I thought we were protecting people and children.
Because you know what? So what I recognized is that amendments are treated differently. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the right to bear arms. So it's like one of those things where the Republican Party or traditionalists, loyalists, patriots, they kind of really stand on those beliefs. It's not that.
No, they don't, because when the Democrats were talking about gun laws, and they didn't want it.
No, I'm saying because they don't believe in. No, they don't want.
No, when Democrats were talking about they wanted gun laws, then Republicans were like, no, the other way around. Who was it with Reagan? They wanted gun laws, or whoever was around when there were the Black Panther Party. They wanted more stricter gun laws, but now they don't. Like, how does that work? So then your values is something's not threading.
But we already know.
No,
see, like to me, I feel like you're tying two different time periods of time. Like you can't. That's not fair, because then we know that they were deliberately focused on us.
But this is my thing.
God.
We have guard dogs. Before we so rudely interrupted by our guard dogs. Guard dogs. Well, what I was saying was, if you're saying that I'm looking at two different times, but I'm also looking at the people who, a large percentage of the people who are sitting in these seats and making these decisions are from that time.
Oh, yeah.
The oldie but goodies are still sitting as representatives and state representatives and senators. So I can easily marry 30, 40, 50 years ago with today, because we got people in their 70s who are sitting in these seats.
I didn't look at it that way.
Exactly. So we're actually living in their young prime time. That's why all this stuff makes sense to them to make these crazy these crazy decisions, because they are old. They are making decisions for people in a world where they're not even promised to be here tomorrow. So you're deciding for me, but I don't make enough money to pay for my home. My children's school is poor, so I would like to send them to private school, but I can't afford it. And food is going up and gas. And you're telling me that with the current world, this isn't the world where you could live off of one income and you had a house and a car.
Yeah.
This isn't that world yet, and still that's their world. And they are making decisions for the people who live now for 30, 40, 50 years ahead of time. But y'all got one foot in the grave. No disrespect. This isn't your world. And I think that there was a quote somebody said. I was watching it recently, and they said, that society has grown when the people who are making decisions are making it knowing that they may never benefit from the shade of, they plant a tree even though they know they'll never benefit from the shade. So my thing is knowing that whatever decisions you're making now, it doesn't have to serve you. It needs to serve those who come after you. That's that selflessness about it that we just don't have.
Yeah. Well, I guess the selflessness that I sense that you're referring to is something that they just believe on. Like that's their belief system.
And I would believe it because they wore poodle skirts. But what I'm saying is today, no. Or they mama did. But either way it goes, I think that you can't make a decision for somebody when you don't even know the world. You're not even really living in the world they're living in right now. It's not fair.
Look, I do understand. But I guess we're just getting to the tipping point when it's gonna have to happen. And what made me think about that was how you tied two different eras together with people that were definitely around when these things were happening. And it's like they're trying to take things back to a point where they believe that it was better, and it's either going to be better or it's going to like get worse, right? Mm. So if it gets worse, something else, it's got to get to a breaking point.
Yeah. So if you bought your house and it was 80,000 and your income was comparable where you could afford it and you only had one income, you don't get to speak on what people are going to be able to afford or do now. That's how I feel. Because you are blinded because you're still living in the fantasy of where you were before. The world has changed so much since some of these people have been in these positions for 30 plus years.
But to me, when I hear you talk, it's almost like the bias survey that the way that you talk about older people, like they like
the 1 foot in the grave. This is the thing.
No, not just that. It's several.
It's several things I said. This is the thing. I respect elders. I do. I respect elders for what they've gone through, what they've experienced. But I don't think that I want them making a decision for a day in Dallas because I feel like their world is so different. Like our generation, you and I, we know what an 8-track is, a record player, a tape, a CD, an MP3 player, Napster, and LimeWire. Then we know what, streaming is. So imagine how much the world has changed just in our generation. And we had like the ultimate transition generation.
Yeah.
Before us, they were all just, riding on a bicycle. When we came along, we were riding on a Ninja motorcycle. You know what I'm saying? So how is it that you're still in tune with what's going to be necessary? Day in Dallas, their generation is on a rocket ship at this point. And so even I feel like we at our age can make decisions that might get our kids 15, 20 years, might set them up. But not long after us, there should be a transition of power.
For sure.
Because you all have to live in this world.
But
we don't.
Maybe not a transition of power yet. And this is the reason why I'm saying, what if, like older people are open to knowing how to change correctly, where they get enough information where they don't remain old? Because to me, I feel like old people are the ones that feel like the certain parts of their life was the correct way. And
yeah.
So, but if you're open to change, knowing that could be wrong, you can still function.
Hey, you know who I love? Bernie Sanders. But anyway, I think that, and let me just circle back and say, I respect the expertise, the knowledge, the history, the wisdom that my elders have. I just understand that there are limitations.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah,
I'm
I know,
saying.
but you make you.
I love old
explode.
people. Yeah, I need, but it's because I don't think people fully understand that we have people making decisions and they're so outdated.
I can agree for sure.
Yeah, so that that's where I am.
No doubt. I like this episode. I think that it covered a lot. I think it hopefully I could give a different voice for people that, because, you and I could be on the same side all day. But in order for us to learn and not get stagnated like other people, we have to be open to believing that there are better options that we're not seeing. Yeah. So hopefully this conversation could get people to thinking, what is the disconnect? That's why I'm like, we got to work on this communication thing, because I just don't see people being that grotesque the way that some people may portray it in the media. But anybody you want to give a shout out before we get out of here?
I want to give a shout out to Governor Gretchen Whitmer. I like her. I really do. I love her. And you know what? She looks like Wonder Woman.
Does she? Yeah, so
she does look like Wonder Woman to me. But I want to give a shout out to her because you know what? Throughout, I made my way back to Michigan right before COVID. And throughout COVID, she stood firm, even though there were people in Michigan that was like trying to kidnap my girl. They like, she stood firm, and she always feels like she's looking for the most expanded right for people as she can. And so I like her. So I want to give her a shout out.
You know what's crazy? I want to talk about her also, because to me, I feel like if the governor was a Republican, right? And somebody tried to kidnap her, they was like, yep, that's my governor. Ain't nobody she held her own. Like, but these men and Republican people are still talking about kidnapping and all of this stuff.
But I think, and even like there's a woman in Michigan who's over the vote in Michigan. They tried to burn her house down or kidnap her too. I think it's also about women in power, but that's another episode. But yeah.
Yeah. So I want to give her, I'll double back because, today, I was down at the Capitol and I had to go train, so I left. And when I came back, one of the team leads said they petitioned the governor.
Oh, really?
And she was like, "Do you know who I am?"
If anybody is interested,
and she didn't know at the time or whatnot, but they took pictures or whatnot. But it's dope because
that's cool.
Heck yeah. So the shout out to her, and I want to give a shout out to her in a way where maybe mankind can appreciate, she's just trying to make sure that people are being represented and heard. She's not taking anything out of anybody's house. She just want people to still be represented, and she's not hurting anybody. I may go against your morals or values or religious belief system, but at the end of the day, she's trying to make sure everybody gets an opportunity to be successful or make a bad decision, but she wants them to make it.
And let it be them.
Yeah. So to those of you that don't believe in that stance, I totally understand that also. This isn't for us to take a side, but we do believe that if you're limiting people's rights, you're going to always have a problem. But make today better than yesterday. Don't worry about anything you can't control. GATA, get after that action, or that action will get after you.
Vote the vasectomy 2022.
Be great on purpose. Boom.